Sorry, guys, you cannot hear me. Let's go, man. Had myself on mute for a minute. So just to recap, guys, this is By the Books Consulting. There's a company. My name is Cheston Bolgen. I am the senior consultant here, founder and CFO. You can reach us at 888-4BTB now. That's 888-428-2669. And you can also reach us on the web at bythebooksconsultants.com, also at youraccountingsuperhero.com, which is will bring you to the same website. Okay, you can reach me via email at cheston@bythebooksconsultants.com. All right, and at the end of the day, we do peace, ease, and clarity, more profits and more cash for people like you. All right, everything here at the bottom with the accounting, the QuickBooks, the tax planning, the business advisory, only serve to achieve that outcome. So at the end of the day, that you have more cash in the bank than you did yesterday and next month than you did this month, and that you can see that future with certainty, that you're able to continually and consistently and reliably deliver on that improved, more cash, brighter future for yourself and your families, so that you can have a legacy at the end of the day. So that's kind of what we do. All right. And guys, let's talk about this real quick before we get started. Quick disclaimer. The following is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered financial, accounting, or legal advice. Please consult your tax, accounting, and or legal professional for specific advice. All right. Now, so today's conversation is going to be pretty interesting. Okay, so today's conversation is very interesting. We're talking about making decisions, like winning decisions in trucking. How about that? You can win with the choices you make in the trucking industry. Did you know that? Maybe you did not know that, but you can actually choose some things and have positive results from the choices you make, as long as you understand how you're making those choices. And today I'm hoping to shed some light on that conversation and that idea, that concept with you, so that you can go out here tomorrow and then really from the jump out of this conversation understand how it is that you can make winning decisions. All right. And a couple of ways that we do that here. So when we make winning decisions inside of trucking, we're really talking about number one, when we're planning for profits, and number two, when we keep those profits that we make. Okay. So, well, how do I plan for profits and continue to consistently and reliably know that I'm going to make a certain amount each and every week? You know, I'm on conversations with a lot of people in this industry, clients that we work with, people that are calling us with, just really to get some insight and understanding on what to do, like how to really make it in this industry and have the results that they say they want to have, right? So a lot of what I hear is lack of focus and lack of clarity. There's a lot of other stuff going on rather than just choosing consistently and reliably inside of a system. A systematic approach, understanding what it is that you're doing by the choices that you make and the actions that you take, all right, every single time. That's a missing with a lot of people in the industry, right? So if you're in this conversation today, you're going to have an edge. You're going to be able to understand, well, it doesn't have to be a mystery for you to achieve profits in the trucking industry. You can plan for this consistently and reliably, and you can really gauge, well, what you want to do and what's going to be the highest probability outcome for you by making that high probability success outcome for you by making the choices that you make. If that makes sense. Okay, so we want to plan for profits. We want to make, and we want to keep those profits that we make from the choices that we've made. If that makes sense. Okay. Now you're going to see me a lot of the times. I'll bring up this spreadsheet that we have here. Right, we'll have this going on, and I'm just going to bring it up real quick here, and boom. All right, so this is not the spreadsheet. This is actually what we're using to build out like our analytics to be able to see, what choices we're going to make on a day-by-day, moment-by-moment basis in the industry. Now, I pull this up first because this is fuel trends, right? You'll see this most weeks. You'll see this fuel trends. And what I want to drive into you is that there's data. there are things that you can look at and not just look at them, but use this information to make choices. Okay. You can do that. All right. So what I want to do is pull up like what this trend is. We're going to take a look at a few things. One thing we look at here is fuel trends. The other thing we'll go to the DAT analytics board. We'll see what freight is doing like across the country, like what the market rates are for its spot market. All right. This gives us a general idea of what we can negotiate with for the equipment and for the location, like where we're headed and where we're coming from. Right. So this gives us a real general idea of what we can do. All right. So if you're getting anything less than this, then you want to say, okay, I'm not going to take any less than this. I want to actually get these rates or more when I'm looking to plan my loads. Right. That's going to be the concept there. Okay. Now the other thing is, I mean, you can go through here, guys. You can really go through here and see a lot of information here, from dry van rates. What we're looking at now, we can look at flatbed rates here, right? And then we can look at um, reefer rates here too on the DAP Freight and Analytics, right? Where you at? National reefer rates bottom. There you go. All right. So all this information is here for you and I to view. All right. Also, the fuel rates are there for you and I to view. So what are we doing with this really? We're just giving ourselves a gauge of how much it's costing us to produce the loads that we carry. Okay. And then how much we can reasonably expect to get on the spot market when we're choosing to book loads. Okay. If you're somebody out here that's doing spot market booking. Okay. Now, I take this information, I use it, right, for people and for businesses. And how we use it, guys, looks nice here, and like it's like nice and pretty to look at all these numbers on the spreadsheet, right? Some of you may be like, oh man, what does this really mean? Like there's a lot of stuff here. I'm confused. All right. Now, really, what I want you to get out of this conversation tonight is the fact that you want to get out of your head. Stop thinking about, you're overwhelmed, there's too much to do, and the market is, man, it sucks today, and I don't know how I'm going to make it. That doesn't really serve you. All right. So my intention tonight is to get you out of that mode, to shake you out of that mode and get you thinking that I do have choices here that will help me move forward and get the results I'm here to get. Right. So I really want you to stop the stinking thinking. All right. Stop your stinking thinking because it doesn't help. Right. And I know a lot of you are entrepreneurs and business owners who have accomplished a lot in life. And man, this whole thing about stinking thinking, it's a human condition. So if you're a human being, you're not outside of the rules of that, right? You can be subjected to stinking thinking from time to time. It's like innate within all of us. But what does that look like? It looks like, well, I really don't know what to do here, right? That's a thought that came out into language. Like, I don't know how, like, I don't know what to do and I don't know how to do this, right? Well, that doesn't serve, right? It's a thought, good, but we don't have to indulge in that thought. We can get out of our head and say, okay, well, what do I have here? What am I dealing with? Now, this helps, like these tools. Guys, you'll see me use technology and tools to help me get out of my own head with things so that we can be clear and take powerful actions based on what we're seeing, all right? And then measure that according to like the results that we get from taking these high probability actions that deliver high probability outcomes for you and I, all right? So this is what I want to shift you from out of your head and out of whatever the stinking thinking is. Wherever it might be, a good percentage, might be 30% of the time, and maybe 90% of the time that you have that going on in your head. So regardless of how much the percentage is, I want to shift you out of that permanently so that you can get back to business and really fulfill on what you say you're here to fulfill on, which is grow your fleet and be profitable and have more cash in the bank. That's what you're here for. All right. So now, with that being said, we can come here and take a look exactly what's going on and then make choices from there. All right. And you can really customize technology like this to help you manage what we call reality. Like, this is the reality. This is what we're dealing with. Okay. This is the framework in which we operate out here, really. Right. So we can use this information to plan accordingly. And now if we go and take the actions based on what we see, then there's a high probability that you're going to get the outcome. Right. There's not going to be a mystery why you get the outcomes and other people don't. You just don't entertain anything else, but just seeing, okay, what am I dealing with in reality? Okay, based on what I'm seeing in reality, I'm going to make these choices. I had a call, it was a couple of weeks ago, and the guy I was talking to, he was working hard and putting a lot of effort in, doing a lot of over the road work. And that's how he had it. That's what his interpretation was, But in reality, he was doing 1,700 miles a week. That's easy. All right. And some of you know what I'm talking about. That's it. That's all he's doing. But yeah, that's what he was doing. But to him, it was like, man, it was just so much, and he didn't know how to get to the levels he wanted to get to, which the level he wanted to get to was like $5,000 per week, and it wasn't based in reality. And this right here, guys, you can get really inside of reality, which is the helpful position to be in inside of. And guys, when I say that over, like sometimes I'll say that in reality, and I really want you to understand what I mean when I say that. It's out here, like tangible. I can see it. I can measure it. Those are the things, right? It's measurable. It has a form to it. I know what it looks like. Okay, like we're looking at the spreadsheet and we see, okay, fuel costs this week, the regional average fuel cost is $4.06 for nationwide average of fuel costs rather. That's what it is. That's a tangible thing. I know what that is. That's what I'm dealing with. That's out here in reality, right? That is the fact. That's the fact of what it is today. All right. So I can work with that because this is what I know now. All right. So I'm going to use this information in order to plan what I want to do and then execute on that plan. Right. And I also see it across the board. Okay, this is what I'm looking at across the board. Now, let's say you have a fuel card that gives you a 30 cent off the gallon discounted rate. So you can account for that too. Well, I'm not really paying what everybody else is paying in the market. I'm paying 30 cents less off the gallon because I have this relationship in this fuel card that gives me 30 cents off the gallon. So I'm already above, like I'm already ahead of the game in this respect. Now, if you don't have that, now you know there's a possibility for you to have something like that to keep you ahead of the game, right? And then I know what I'm paying my drivers, right? That's reality. All right, what am I paying my drivers? I'm paying 55 cents a mile. Maybe you're going to be paying a percentage of the freight. Maybe that's what your reality is, right? So that wants to shift here too. So that's what we're dealing with. This is what I mean by looking at the reality of it. Now we're going to be looking at that all the way around here when it gives us all these metrics and indications, okay? So some things that we're looking at here on this spreadsheet give me an idea of what I can do now. I know that fuel prices are trending upward. It's almost like 1.63%, right? It's up from last week. I know that's like a detriment to operation. That's like when I say detriment, probably not the right use of words. It's more so. It's like it's not something that went in my favor when operating the fleet. It works against me. Like it's another thing that I'm dealing with now. That fuel went up, so I know that's there. So beyond that, I can create a situation where I just need to increase productivity, or maybe I need to stop working in areas that would cost me more in fuel. Like if I'm running reefer only, well, that might be a thing. Why would I do that when fuel rates are so high? Even though reefer might seem as though it's performing better than dry van, it most likely isn't because I'm actually increasing my fuel here too, right? So I know these things in the background. So I'm going to make sure I'm choosing accordingly to what I'm seeing here in the market. I'm going to pivot. All right, I'm going to constantly be looking to pivot. All right, and I know what my maintenance costs are, like per mile, really, right? Based on a higher end and a lower end. So I'm using this framework here to make my choices inside. Okay, well, how much is it really costing me to run my fleet? Then I'm gonna look at other things like deadhead. Well, how much am I really deadheading? How can I minimize deadhead? I'm gonna look at where I'm pulling freight from. What region is the best place to pull it from based on what the market is telling me, like where we're getting the better rates. What's the best equipment for me to be using right now? Maybe I need to pivot to something else. Like on this spreadsheet, we're looking at like in relation to everything else, we have flatbed that looks to be something that's crushing it versus everything else. This is the only equipment division that has gone up in freight rates over the last week. Everything else has declined, right? So this is trending up, right? So I want to keep an eye on this week after week to see what's going on, so that I can make it real solid choices about like what I'm going to do for this week. What am I going to do? Like if the trend is a real pattern where I'm seeing that week after week after week, it's moving in a direction. Well, I want to make a pivot that goes in alignment with that, so that I'm not just complaining about what I'm getting. I'm actually taking actions to really help me win, despite of all those other things. All right, you can make winning decisions in trucking, is what I want to say. Okay, so it's good, man. If I have a view like this, like my view here in this, what I built here in this spreadsheet is okay. Green is a go, red is a no. Green is a go, red is a no. Okay, so if I'm working with something like a piece of equipment, let me say I'm doing dry van, and dry van's over here to my right-hand side, really, it's going to be, okay, well, green is a go, red is a no. I'm going to try to stay away from the Northeast at all, like with everything I've got. All right. I'm going to make sure that if I'm planning loads and I'm looking to be profitable, well, how can I stay out with fleet in the Midwest and the Southwest and maybe even the Southeast, right? And then I'll be like planning loads in that triangle, right? If not just the 2 points, it'll be like that triangle is what I'll be looking to accomplish, right? Based off of what I see here this week, right? But what if I'm like, man, I really want to improve my performance a lot inside of this trucking, inside of this operation? Well, I may think about getting access to somebody who can do flatbed, like give me a flatbed trailer. Maybe I know how to do flatbed, maybe I don't. Maybe you want to start developing that inside of the fleet somehow. Those would be definitive actions to take, because flatbed seems to provide more in terms of freight rates consistently and reliably, if we take a look at it, right? So how can you pivot that way, right? Maybe you know of somebody in the industry that has the trailer sitting around. You might want to just pivot and get the trailer, right? And of course, if you haven't been trained on it before, you want to start getting trained on flatbed before you even make that pivot, but set yourself up to win that way, right? In the future, you're not just sitting around and thinking that, okay, I'm just here and I'm subjected to whatever happens in the market. No, you can actually ride the wave. That's like a surfer, right? Like you can, like a surfer goes out there and the waves do what they do. They can't occur as random, but the surfer's still riding the wave nonetheless. Excuse me, and getting the benefit, right? That full experience of riding the wave successfully. And you can do that too here in trucking. All right. And that's what I really want to communicate to you today. All right. Now, green is go, red is no. Green is a go, red is a no. All right. And if you're here on this call, guys, and you really want access to this a spreadsheet like this, all right, only during these calls will I be able to say, okay, well, you can have it. If you communicate that's what you want, you show up and you say, hey, look, I want this spreadsheet on the live stream. And guess what? I'll send this to you, right? I'll send it to you. You don't have to pay for it, but people outside of this, they got to pay for something. They got to pay for this thing, okay? But if you're here right now, you see, man, I need to have something like this to give me clarity. And we're going to go over this like periodically throughout our conversations to make sure that this is clear for you and I on how to use something like this, all right, to make your decisions. But ultimately, the thing that you really want here is to bring yourself out of your head and put yourself in the reality, all right, so you can make strong winning decisions when it comes to profitability in your company, okay? Excuse me, guys. All right, so let's say we're taking a look at this, like the impact of this, okay? Let's say you want to plan your week out. I mean, you can use this to plan out a week, not just plan out a load. You can do it by load. You can do it by week and say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. Let's say I want to get 6,000 miles this week in freight. Now, you can look at what you can reasonably expect to get, in terms of what, the market is telling us, right? Depending on where you are, right? That's going to give you the mileage, right? So now, if you want to generate 6,000 miles a week, $6,000 a week in gross revenue, we got to take a look and say, okay, well, what is actually producing that? And 3,000 miles is basically what this is giving us to gross 6,000 a week. If we're working it this way, this triangle, that's about $2, a little bit more than $2 a mile. All right. So you're going to be doing a little bit less than 3,000 miles in the week. So I already know that from if you're working dry van. If you're doing that with flatbed, you're doing less than that. You can get by with doing somewhere around 2,500 to 2,700 miles a week. Okay. So you know that. And we can calculate it here. For instance, you can see your fuel costs. If you want your fuel costs to be updated, we can look at, well, what region we're pulling from for the most part. Let's say we're pulling from the mid, like now, let's say we're pulling from the Gulf. All right. Well, that changes things. Well, my fuel costs are no less in the Gulf, right? That's one of those green as a go, right? Yeah, that's green as go. This is also green as a go. Like Midwest, Rocky Mount, um, and Southeast, maybe Southeast, right? So if we're talking about East Coast rates, we're talking about Southeast is included there, but not really the Northeast. Combination, guys, we want to see what we're dealing with and actually think about the process when we're looking at this. Okay. Now, if we go back here, we know that we're pulling freight from maybe the Gulf, or maybe we're planning on pulling it from the Midwest, but that's going to change depending on where you're located and where you want to do your outbound loads from, and then your backhauls from. Okay, so you can plan this. All right. So let's say you want to do 6,000 a week in gross revenue, and pretty much you know that you'd have to get rate cons that say 2,600 a mile if you're doing flatbed, right? Somewhere around that, based on what we're seeing. But you know that actual miles are, you can average that. Like usually, average is going to do like maybe 5 to 10% more so in mileage than what the rate con says. Okay. So that's what this would be. This is actual miles, and then you would see, okay, deadhead mileage. So what's my actual revenue per mile? All right, about $2.12 a mile. So this is realistically what you can expect to be producing on a load. If you get rate cons that give you 2,600 miles, now you could tweak this, guys. You can say, well, I don't want to do that. I really want to see if we can do less mileage. Maybe you want to do 2,500 miles to produce 6,000. You can play around with this to see what those numbers would look like for you. All right. So this will give you a plan, a target to go to. Now, once you get this right in your mind, you understand this in a week's time frame. Your actions would be inside of these metrics. Right. When you're looking at the load boards, when you're connecting with customers and brokers and looking to negotiate freight, you constantly have this in your mind. Like, this is what I want. This is what I want. Now, your actions, like inside of that, will start to be correlate once you give up all the other stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, the market is terrible. I can't find these rates, right? Well, I was on a call with somebody earlier today. They were just using the DAT load board to pull loads. There's a lot more out there than just using the DAT load board to get loads, right? Even in the spot market. I mean, you can go with direct, like brokers that you can get access to a higher paying freight, right? Instead of just using the DAT load board, because only a portion of the loads, a percentage of the loads are available on that load board. But if you go direct to the people that you know that you're pulling for, like a CH Robinson, like a JB Hunt, like a XPO Logistics, like a RXO, right? Logistics, like you can go directly to them and see what they have. And a lot of the times they'll have freight available that's not on the load board. They haven't posted it yet, but they have other things that might fall in line with your objectives, right? So those will be correlate actions just to reach out to these brokers, even though that they're not on the load board. Especially if you have already had a relationship with them, you've already achieved some of these metrics along the way, right? And that does happen. You'll find that you do like a really great week, and you'll have somebody there in a particular company, like a broker. You're like, man, we really did good with this broker this week. How can we do more with that broker? Now you can start making those phone calls and developing those relationships along the way, so you can find out if they have those loads available. Hey, we did this load like 2 weeks ago. Is that a lane that's available still? Can we still do that? And making sure that you're set up to operate in those lanes that really work well for you. And now you're starting to align your actions with the targets. Okay. And that's just a portion of what you can do. That's not everything, but that's a portion of what you can do. Okay. Now at the bottom line here, you can see like, okay, what is the impact of me paying out my fuel? What is the impact of my maintenance on me based on what I'm seeing in the market? If I pay myself, if I'm an owner operator, this amount, what is the impact of it? And at the end of the day, what am I left with? Oh man, when I take into account if I had, all of my permit, my registration fees and the base plates and everything, the 2290s, if like scale is here, but that's not really a fixed cost. That's a variable cost, right? So now we're taking into account all these other fixed costs. And at the end of the day, we can see, okay, this is what we can expect. All right. So if I'm going out here this week, at the net margin wise, I want to have this at the end of the week, right? That could be an official target for you. You can plan to have that profitability, and that profitability can increase if you don't pay yourself this much. Let's say you don't pay yourself, but for the week you pay yourself half of that. Well, now your profitability goes up, if you're an owner operator. But if you have a driver that you're paying per mile, I mean, that could be calculated in here too, right? Because if we're doing 55 cents times the freight rate, the rate con rate, right? We're doing the rate con rate. That's always how we pay drivers, based on the rate con rate, right? So you still have profitability there. You're paying them a little bit less than what you would have paid yourself initially, which was a 1,500. But now look at that. These are some really good metrics. Like yours between 20 and 30% of driver costs, which is fantastic. All right. Your fuel costs are below 30%. Right. Now we're looking at what the possibilities are here. All right. So we're working with the frame now, and we're looking to execute on this. All right. So when we go out and execute on this, we'll come back and measure it against what we actually planned out here. All right. And if it comes in like worse, like either better or worse, we're going to look at that and say, okay, well, why? Why do we do so much better here than we anticipated, or why did we do so like worse than what we wanted projection wise? Right. We'll register the wins because we went out here and executed on the plan. Like, yes, we did that. We planned this out. We went out to execute this thing. And now we're going to look and say, okay, well, what was it that we did to give us these really great results here? And what was it that we did to give us underperforming results over here? All right. So I'm shifting things for you guys in this conversation. You can plan. It doesn't have to be a mystery. You can actually come here and plan to be profitable in trucking, and have a winning decision model, right? This will help you win. Okay. The other thing is, before we wrap up, you want to be able to keep the money that you make when you profit. All right. So there's some things with structures and tax strategy. I've seen it like with people who go into S corps, which is a pretty decent decision to make when you're in a trucking company, to shift to an S corp when you're making some money, because you don't have to pay the extra self-employment tax. But look, if you don't understand how that works, like to pay yourself a certain amount, combine that with retirement, combine that with your health insurance, health coverage, then you're still going to be spending more in taxes than what you need, right? So you actually want to have a plan of execution on that end too. Well, how am I going to keep this money? What am I going to pay myself? How much am I going to pay myself to make sure I'm not overspending still in self-employment tax? But then how am I going to leverage some of the other strategies to make sure I don't have to pay self-employment? When I do pay myself a wage, I'm not subject to the federal income tax, but just the self-employment tax combination strategy. But those are the things that we want to start looking at, guys. How to keep your money in your pocket. All right. So if you haven't been thinking this way, I'm hoping that I'm shedding some light on this for you. Like this conversation's opened something up, which was my intention, to open up your thoughts about this, the approach about this, and shift you really to thinking that you can plan, right? You can actually have results that you intend. You don't have to be a reaction out here in the trucking industry. You can go out here, you can have a plan of action and look to execute on that plan of action. And at the end of the day, be profitable because you chose to be profitable. You made winning decisions in trucking, right? And you also made winning decisions in terms of looking at how you get to keep that on a tax strategy. All right, guys. Hey, it's been great being with you. It's always great being with you on a Monday evening live stream. Fantastic conversation to be inside of. Now, if you're on this call live, man, good for you. All right. And if you're on this call like after the fact, kudos to you as well for watching this all the way through to the end. Now, what are you going to do about it? All right. Guys, see you next week. It's been great being with you. Talk to you then. Take care. Bye-bye.